I'm going to give a big shout out to the video guys because last year's bird paradigm shift in bird photography is the #1 video with over 100,000 views. So I like that. You can see this recording probably in a couple of weeks afterwards. So if you forget anything, go online and it should be available in a couple of weeks. So I do all types of nature photography, macro photography. My first love is landscape photography. I couldn't afford the big lenses when I started out about 30 years ago, but going to a location, I was able to do that because I was a camper backpacker, so sleeping was free for the most part, but I would go out to the locations. I am a Sigma Pro team member for 5 years now, and I use all their lenses, and I have for a very long time. So we got that out of the way. I thought about this new program and I said, what do I want to give to you guys instructionally, and what can I pass on after 30 years of photography? The #1 thing that came out, it's the light. So I've gotten a little stricter with you guys over the years because my settings are f/22. It's sharp front to back. But the light, I'm leaving Yellowstone at 9:30 in the morning with the sunrise at 7, and a conga line of cars is coming in. You're not going to get this light at 9:30. This happens 45 minutes to an hour before sunrise, 45 minutes to an hour after sunrise. So do me a favor, if you want to be a landscape photographer, be at your location an hour before sunrise, leave an hour after. Hour before sunset, 4 hours a day. Skip the rest of the day. Because then you're going to get, so sunrise, sunset doesn't matter. This is after the sun goes down. So for the young people watching the live stream, you need to be there. It's not about gear, it's not about thing. And for the record, as a landscape photographer, when I talk with my bird photography or wildlife photographer friends, you miss more than you hit it out of the park. So you need to be there. If you think it's gonna rain, get out there. If you think it's gonna snow, get out there. This doesn't last long, and by the time you see it, it's over. One time in 30 years, 25 years ago, I was in the Tetons. I was exhausted. I was sitting in my room. It's raining. Got up and said, that's it. I'm going to stay in. I'm driving myself crazy. No, you should be out there. No, you should be out there. Go to the bathroom. Look out the window. I see a sunrise like this. I go, oh, you idiots. I will never miss a sunrise or sunset. And for the record, I hate mornings. I wrote a night guide. I won't miss it. I will be out there. And that's on you, the photographer. And that first hour when the sun's coming up, blue hour, this is from Iceland, ice on the beach, you gotta be there. You just gotta be there, sunrise or sunset. This sun popped out for all of a whopping 2 minutes. You know, so just be there and wait. And let's reality check here. I'm in some of the most beautiful places on earth. If it didn't happen, hey, it's still a pretty good view. So the #1 gear I'm going to put on photography is your tripod. All right? I use the Enduro tripod. Carbon fiber, I use it for everything. Why? At this time of day, you're talking about 2-second exposures, sometimes more. And I'm going to talk about different gear. I'm in the water for this shot out in Long Island. My tripod can't move during that 2 seconds to get a blurry image. So you need a very sturdy, stable tripod. My nighttime exposures are up to 30 seconds. Your tripod can't move. So make sure you have a rock-solid tripod. I always tell this story. I've told it once, I've told it many times. Don't buy that inexpensive tripod. You're going to own 5 tripods in your lifetime. Skip 1 through 4 and buy number 5. You know, just do it. I know a lot of you have been there and done that, you know. So this is about an 8-second exposure in Iceland. I used it to smooth out the water. So, you know, and Iceland's a windy country, so you need to have a tripod that's not going to be flapping in the breeze. And on that note, take off your camera strap and everything else that's dangling in the wind. You want as little exposed to the wind. And like I said, many of you saw my night presentation. This is from last year. This is a 30-second exposure. So I really need solid base for all my images. So I am old school. I want it right in camera, but I also like new technology. So, and I have two 20-something, 21 and 23-year-old almost sons that'll tell me, Dad, there's an app for depth of field. Well, there is, depthoffieldmaster.com to figure it out, but I'm gonna make your job easy. Just set your camera at f/22 and shoot the landscape. You know? Because then everything, if the app will tell you on the wide angle lens, everything from about your feet to infinity is in focus. So I'll save you the trouble. But if you really want to, if things are further away from you, I'll tell you when I stop down to f/8. So what is in my bag? The ultra wide, 12 to 24. The workhorse is the 24 to 105. For my night photography, I generally choose my 24 1.4 because it's fast. And the new one in the bag, new kid in the block, the 100 to 400 that I've had for about a month now. Why? I want to do detail tight work with it, but I just don't want the whole scene. And it's so light that it replaces my 70 to 200. So wide angle. Most people abuse their wide angle lens or not use it correctly. You want something right in your face. This thing is literally 2.5, 3 feet away from me. And for the record, if you're going to use the 12 to 24 vertically, I had to clone out my tripod leg over here. When you go vertical and that wide, you got to get rid of, and just make sure. But you got to get something close to you because a lot of people do the wide scene. This is one that works because of that sky. But look how the wide angle minimizes the barn and everything else. So you got to, whenever you can with that ultra wide, get right on top of something. I'm inside the cave here in Valley of Fire. And I've been out in the West, probably my second home. I just came back from Utah and Moab and the desert Southwest Monday. This is a little cave. I saw this image probably 20 years ago. I was like, where the heck is this arch in Valley of Fire? It's under a rock. It's like the thing's this big. My 12 millimeter makes it look like a giant thing. And also the wide view. You should not be afraid of heights if you go to this location. There's an image of me with the tripod over the edge, so you could crawl up to it though and get the shot. So this is the new 12 to 24. We've just replaced it, one of the first images out. I love my big skies. When I have it, the 12 to 24 comes out at any time. But look, I'm combining the time of day. I'm standing out there. There was a young kid. I was very happy. I saw one other person, a young kid, and he's like, oh my God, I've never seen a sunrise like this here. I go, either have I, and I've done this for 30 years. So you gotta make the effort, but putting something, this is right at my feet. I'm shooting wide. And I don't mind that it warps the perspective. But most of the images I see, or a lot of the images I see, we all tend to hold the camera horizontally. Do both. It's digital. You own the card. That way and that way. You know, take a bunch. And this is actually from a week ago. This is the desert Southwest, 13 inches of rain. This right here is euphemistically called Lake Roman. When it rains, and I have been there when it rains, you do get puddles in this area. I'm a pro and run workshops there. I'm not going to leave that to chance. I carry 10 gallons of water, and I make my puddles. It's the desert Southwest. Hint, hint. I'm going to bring the water. When I go in the wintertime, I use warm water so it doesn't freeze. So the workhorse that I called it, this is probably the lens that gets the most use. It's the 24-105. It's the most versatile. It's on in the truck, in the glove box. It's there. Again, this is from a week ago. Sunrise. When you go, and if you're not there at sunrise or sunset around that first thing, you don't get the ripples in the sand. They're due to the low sun angle. That's when you see them. So you really need to be there. Now, how many of you have been to the Arches area or Moab? How many of you know there's a waterfall in Arches? There it is, Faux Falls. It's actually, Faux Falls should give it away. Supposedly it's a man-made drainage thing, but it looks natural to me. The drainage pipes are up higher. Combining everything. This is right behind. Usually this Buck Canyon overlook is a sunrise location for me. I'm usually at the Green River overlook. Well, it wasn't happening on the Green River. We went to the other side of the street, and I got this sunset after sunset. You got to be there. It was a 30-mile drive. If it didn't happen, it was going to be a 45-minute drive back home, but we were standing there. We were there to make sure you got the shot. And like I said, I'm now, when the light starts coming up a little more, now I'm just walking around with the 24, actually off the tripod because I have enough shutter speed, and run around and take shots. But it's on, like I said, don't do what I do with my gear. It's on the floor of the truck usually. And I'm standing there, all right, with the camera and the lens. I've got other people with me, but it's easy enough for me to pull over to the side of the road and take the shot. The road is literally right here. I just crouch down to get the shot. But it's versatility. Again, compose, recompose, I don't have to move. This is outside of Las Vegas in a ghost town, El Dorado Canyon it's called. And it was a movie set prop, and I've done it at night. But that long reach, waterfalls, Undine Falls, there's a tree now that fell into this waterfall. But this was my, again, workhorse where I'm doing most of the detail work. And when I do photograph stuff, I like playing with saturation, so I intentionally made the water black and white and left the icebergs blue. It's raining. And we were talking, I'm going to tease David a little bit because he was saying it's going to rain. You're going to be going to the baton. Yeah, you should. If you watch my presentation yesterday, overcast is great for macro photography. Put a cover, hefty garbage bag, rain sleeve, whatever on your camera, and then put it on yourself. I thought it was me. I had the same beat. Cover your camera and stand out there because the ice gets an incredible blue color when it's overcast. It really does. So this is out in Hawaii. We're walking around and I saw the pagoda. So again, I converted it to black and white and just left the pagoda red. And I use this for stitching images. This is one of the few panels that I stitched together, probably at about 70 millimeter. This is out in the painted desert. So I stitched it together. But now everybody says, wow, you're using a telephoto for landscapes? Yeah, because you can focus in on things that the 12 or 24 just can't do. Even the 108. And look at this. This is my favorite thing about the lens, besides its sharpness. 2.5 pounds. I have a light lens now that I can do cowboys and cowgirls on the beach. Because this Jersey boy, even though I travel a lot, I don't know, I have a thing with horses. I don't like getting too close. And I'm leading a photographic workshop of horses on the beach for the Florida Bird Festival. So I got this guy and the horse, this is at about 400 millimeter, running right at me. And I'm man enough to admit at 100 millimeters, my knees buckled. You know? Thank God he knew what he was doing. I went, oh man, he's getting close. But for the landscape scenario, I'm isolating Mexican Hat against the painted desert. I'm isolating parts of the painted desert. And oh, by the way, I like old stuff, so this old car, minimum focusing distance of 5'3". Now, the only time I'll switch that lens out now is if I know I'm going to a location like Hawaii. Why? Because I know I'm going to be photographing birds. You know, landscapes, birds, yes, I'm doing it all, and wildlife. But I also do ice. My favorite thing, though, in Hawaii, well, two things are my favorite. Surfers. I'm standing on a cliff, probably 400 foot high. These are 40 to 50 foot waves. So they're pretty far away. So on a crop body, the lens is light. I can isolate the surfers, the windsurfers. This place is appropriately called Jaws, Peahi, I think it is, in the Hawaiian. Doesn't it look like that thing? So imagine jumping off a roof of a 2-story house and having the house chase you. I mean, the power, the one thing the photograph really doesn't translate is just the sound and the fury of that ocean. Those people are really incredibly brave or stupid, one of the two. But, you know, these guys were funny because usually no two riders will take the wave. But, I mean, that looks like a dragon ready to swallow them. So, I was in Hawaii in January, and the lava was flowing. Now, if you saw my show last year, I do aerial stuff, I go over it. So the first time we went out, we took our 24 to 105. I had it in a bag, waterproof bag on the boat. That's a cool shot, you know, of the lava flowing. But I pulled out the 150 to 600, and how about that? This immediately went up to number 3 on my top 10 list. The Wildebeest Crossing is number 1, and the Bears of Alaska are 2. But the fury and the power of this was just incredible. You're watching creation of Earth. So this allowed me to just focus on the lava flow. You're only out there about 35 minutes on the boat. So zoom in tight, change lenses to the 24 to 105 for the wider stuff. So I talked about the time of day. Now I know, like a union carpenter for 25 years, you plan your vacation, you plan your trip, you don't want to be out for just 4 hours. Well, my least favorite sky is a clear blue sky. That used to be. Now I do night photography, so yeah, we'll go out at night. But bad weather is your friend. When I hear thunderstorms, when I hear, I'm running out the door to photograph. I'm not going in. You know how little it snows in Arches? Run out the door. Grab your camera, make sure everything, and get out that door. It snowed in the morning about 3 inches. By 12 o'clock afternoon, it was gone. Without rain, without storms, you don't have rainbows. Again, this was about a 2-minute window. It's raining, we're in the parking lot waiting, all of a sudden the sun pops out. There you go. Be ready. And if you haven't noticed by now, I treat my gear like it's supposed to be. Use it. All right? Don't let it sit on the shelf. If it gets some rain on it, it won't. Melting, it won't. Trust me. But as always, stormy clouds, that break comes, you want to be out there, out in the field, not scrambling from the hotel room. And I mean, come on, look at this sky. That's because of a storm. We didn't get what you would call that colorful sunset, but that's a pretty intense sky. And this is with the 12 to 24. So storms are your friend, go chase them. You know, I haven't done the storm chasing of the tornadoes. It's on my list, except my wife just poo-poos that all the time. But, you know, I'm going to go do it one time. A lot of you have been to the Southwest. How many times you've seen Bryson snow? And I tell you what, when it gets that little dusting of snow, it's a whole new landscape even for me. I photographed Arches. This was my 26th visit to Arches. And I've only had it once or twice in a little bit of snow. So I'm going to be out there. This was a slide from my early days when I used to backpack and hike. It's a 10-mile hike. I'm going to get dropped off by a helicopter now if I go. I ain't doing it, you know. Yeah, because I got to carry 35 pounds of camera gear. What the heck do I take to sleep in, you know, and everything else? So, like I said, Lake Roman, wintertime Lake Roman. You've probably stood there 1,000 times and said, there's no lake there. I had a judge in the camera club many, many years ago said, I've been to Arches 10 times, there's no lakes. The road's back here. There's 2 rice bags and bean bags right here blocking off the flow of the puddle to build up the water level, and I carry 10 gallons of water. Warm water this time. So later this day, one of my friends was with me, and he went back, it's cold, and he says, I'm going back to the car. And I stood out there, you know, again, being from New Jersey, we're used to the cold weather, I'm ready for it, because it wasn't happening. He went back to the car, this happened. By the time he ran back from the car, set up his tripod, it was over. Another slide. Lightning. You've got lightning triggers now. This was standing outside with an aluminum tripod probably 25 years ago. And then the rocket scientist, me, realizes you are the tallest thing out here. Not the smartest, but definitely the tallest. Maybe you should go in. Listen, I'll take my chances now with a lightning trigger and sit in a car with the rest of you, you know, or something like that. So we're talking about the stuff to get it right in camera. Let's talk about some accessories. I am a filter user. I do other things, but I want to get it right in camera. So filters that you must have: a graduated split neutral density, a circular polarizer. I use a solid neutral density filter to slow down the action when I need to. And now the coolest toy in the bag, especially for those of us that live by water, the reverse neutral density filter. And I'll talk to you about each one of them. So a lot of you have used the split neutral density. Basically, I hold it up, or in the holder, over the sky to balance the sky out with the foreground, or circular polarizer just to make the clouds pop, all right? Now, realize I'm photographing a lot of rocks. If I have bushes in the foreground, then I have to consider raising ISO so my shutter speed isn't too slow, all these other good things. But split, just because this was way darker, just hold it on the top part. And actually, with my long exposure, you'll see me actually move that filter. Even though the gradation is soft, I'll move it during the exposure to further minimize that line. So this would have been dark. So the reverse neutral density filter, it's darkest here at the center and gets lighter. So what's the brightest part of my frame? Right here, right? Works perfectly when you have a horizon that's relatively straight and the sun starts to creep down on it, because now you're knocking the sun down, the brightest part of the sky, not making this too dark up here. So it's a really cool filter to have. And I think they're here. I think they're here, Benro's here with the filters. Same thing. straight horizon, reverse. This canyon would have been dark. I'm going to talk to you about stacking images in a minute, but for now, whenever I can, I've told you once, I've told you guys many times, my least favorite place is behind the computer. My favorite place is standing right here. So I'm going to take the filter out for the 2 seconds that I'm going to use it, and I'm going to get it right in camera whenever I can. Nice straight horizon, move the filter a little bit, there it works. Same thing here in Iceland. This would have been dark. Nicer straight horizon. Look how bright it is here compared to up there. Works perfect. So those are the old tools. I embrace digital 100%. So let's talk about some new tricks. Blending images. Well, you can't use a split here. This is brighter, you would darken that. Take a couple of shots and blend the images. I don't usually use software to blend my images. I took one shot of the sky to get this correct and one of Mesa Arch, put the two together manually in Photoshop. This one might have been 3 images. This beam of light, by the way, this was probably taken 15 years ago. If you go there now, it's just a zoo. I mean, it's non-stop traffic. But this is 12 to 15 stops brighter than everything else around it. So I took one for the beam, the brightest part of the beam, one for the shaft, and one for the canyon walls. And probably my most famous blend, why wouldn't a filter work here? Well, if a neutral density reverse, I would have made Mount Kirkjufell very dark, right? Took one for the sky, one for the waterfall, blended the 2 images together. So when I know that my filters won't work, I'll blend images. But if I know my filters are gonna work, I'll pull out the filters. So my most favorite subject, and we're fortunate to have it, is water. Water covers 71% of the earth, with about 95% of it being ocean. We're fortunate enough that we live close to it. You give me a waterfall, I'm gone all day long. Overcast day, this is Ricketts Glen, close to us, it's about 3 hours from me, 21 waterfalls in a small area. Wide angle, I'm standing in the water. Okay, so rule number 1. I'm supposed to go do a waterfall shoot with one of my friends. He says, "You're gonna bring waders?" I've had boots up to here, gone over them, hip waders, gone over them. I just wear shorts and old pair of sneakers, I walk right in now. Got a little insulation on me to stay warm, but I've given up on boots because I figure if I go over chest waders, I'm in trouble, you know. Now, waterfalls, some people don't like the silky look. Hey, you won't hurt my feelings. Take it from sharp to silky. You're standing in the water already, you might as well take advantage of taking a bunch of different shots. But when you get these long exposures, you should know by now these leaves didn't magically appear there. As I'm walking along the trail, I've got a hefty garbage bag that should be covering my camera. I'm scooping up leaves. I see the eddy, I go snap, pour them out. My polarizer and my neutral density gives me a 10-second exposure. I get the swirling leaves. And again, 12 to 24, I'm right on top of it. But overcast day, no harsh highlights. It's raining. I'm going to get wet. Yes, yes, and yes. So you give me, I'm chasing waterfalls everywhere, shooting them wide. This one's out in the Pacific Northwest, 12 to 24. I could touch this rock. That's how close I am to it. So my 12 to 24 is really filling the frame. And this waterfall's really tall, so I need every bit of that 12 to 24. This one I'm close to. Anybody here been to Mount Rainier? Probably a couple of you. This is on the side of the road. I don't even know if it's a waterfall. It's a cascade, and then there's a drainage ditch underneath the road. I'm standing in the drainage ditch. and 24 to 105. Very lush. We had choices like Velvia and all this other stuff when we were shooting film. I like that. But now, that's waterfalls. We got them. The ocean. Drag the shutter. You'll get different looks. You can get the water silky with all the colors in it. If you use a neutral density to extend the exposure, we have that opportunity. I've seen guys that just did seascapes without any rocks or anything in it, with the long exposures getting the beautiful colors. It's like a painting. Out in Iceland, the water was all white particles. I slap on 9 stops of neutral density filter to get a 20-second exposure, 30-second exposure, smooth that water out. So here, when you have the reflection of city lights, you get an 8-10 second exposure. It'll smooth that water out and give you a really beautiful look. But again, solid tripod. Split neutral density, it's dark. Okay, remember I told you when to be out there? Guess what time I'm out in Iceland during the spring? Sunset's midnight, sunrise is 2 o'clock in the morning. Beauty of that is nobody's out. I wonder why. They want to sleep. Well, you're photographers. You can't sleep. You go on my website, it says sleep is overrated. It sure is. Sleep the rest of the day. Be out there at sunrise and sunset. I mean, during the day, there's buses, vans, and everything here at the lagoon. At night, you probably got 10 photographers around with you. It's not night. It's sunrise. It's sunset. We've made it night because it's midnight. Well, land of the midnight sun. Welcome to Iceland in the spring. And this is literally a trickle of a waterfall. I did a blog for Sigma on waterfalls, so if you go through the Sigma blog, I'll talk about settings more. But because of the long exposure, 25 seconds I think this is, it made that little trickle look like more than it is. And I don't always go to exotic places. Whenever I have an opportunity and I ask my wife, do we have anything to do today? No, it's going to be rainy and overcast. This is a local park by me. This cascade's about that tall. I spent all day playing with the cascades, and somehow that branch wound up there. I don't know how. I spent more time cleaning that scene up than I did actually taking the picture. And sand flows. Again, it's a very crowded place now. Hey, in town they have a Walmart. I'm running around Walmart looking for a kid's play sand bucket. Scoop up some sand, throw it up there, I get waterfalls. So when the sky's clear, you know pretty much where I'm going with that. Use your filters. And now, to get a waterfall with this silky look, 9 stops of neutral density probably in my polarizer. So I can, during the middle of the day now, I can get this look with neutral density filters. And bonus points, sun's out, rainbow, yes, winner, winner. I do love my lighthouses and long exposure and a split neutral density. This is the original version of Lake Roman. So I've been doing it for years now. I'm not on a tripod. Your camera, if you think that you're laying on the ground, the camera is on the ground. You wouldn't see it standing up this high, not even crouching down. Lay down. Water reflects everything. I've done a water bottle in a depression of a rock, and I've got reflections of lighthouses. Trust me, it's there. But mood, I'm looking for the mood. This is another with a long telephoto lens. So if the sun's out, I'm not really worried about it, or I have clear skies, I'll minimize the sun, look at other things. How about Mount Rainier at night? Yes, you can do waterfalls at night. It's a very cool look. This one was light painted, but I have run around at night letting the moon paint my waterfalls. You get that same silky look. See, I'm just ruining your sleep habits all day today. And then along the beach. This is the moon setting during the Perseids meteor shower. So that's the moon with the Milky Way rising. So do your homework. Check the times of the Milky Way rise. There's an app for that and all that other good stuff. So combining both of them, old, new, but the one thing, again, I am going to stress this, just be out there before sunrise and after sunset. Sun goes down, I see every car door closed, everybody's running to dinner. No, avoid the crowds, wait for dinner, get it later, grab a power bar, grab a Snickers. See if they sponsor me. But that hour, so we call it the golden hour for a reason, you know? That hour before sunset, the hour after sunrise, no substitute for that look, the glow. Clouds on Mount Rainier. And I'm practical. Let's say you have a bland sky, bland gray sky. Well, make it a black and white. It's a very dramatic sky, but in color it was like, make it a black and white. Shoot details. That's where the 100 to 400 comes in, because I'm shooting details. And all these details were done with a longer telephoto lens. So, like I said, the ripples show up best as soon as the sun rises, that first 15 minutes to an hour after. After that, you start losing them. So you got to be there at the time. And this happens only at certain times of year. So if you factor in the 6 times that I've been to Arches, I probably have this shot 1,000 times. Different views. This is the only one I have it with the shadow because I was there at the right time of day. It's the right time of year. It's a short window to get that shadow. But I'll revisit everything I photographed time after time after time because in landscape photography, light changes all the time. So the scene that you saw years before, remember that was one of the first I showed you with the 12 to 24. Well, this is done at night and I light painted it. But the mood that you capture, time of day, never got a really dramatic sunrise this morning in the Everglades, but hey, it was nice. Nice mood. Hawaii, raining, so what? For waterfalls, you really want to be out there when it's bad. In the fall, you're going to have bigger crowds, all right? And the weekends, you're going to have really big crowds. So just, if you can, plan during the middle of the week. But these, in an area that we live, we are surrounded by waterfalls and water. And if you want to travel, this is up in Michigan. And this one, I am standing in the water to about right here with my 12 to 24. So I am right next to it. And when I do see the forecast, this was taken last week, of clear blue skies, like I tell all my clients, I go, well, your sleep schedule just changed. See you at 10 o'clock at night, and we're going to be out all night. And they roll their eyes and say, do we have to? And I say, yes, you're photographers. So we go, we just run around all night long. A lot less crowds, although surprisingly enough, since I wrote the book 6 years ago, there's a lot more people out there. Because you get this, a whole different view. You know, so the Milky Way, being out there at night, it's much more peaceful. This was just taken probably 6 days ago when out in Arches. And on that, I am going to end for questions.